Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to ¿Cuál es tu raza?, the diaspora of Spanish-speaking countries. We are so excited to have you here today, and we will be celebrating our beautiful and diverse culture by listening to our panelists' personal stories. So without further ado, let's introduce our panelists. We have KARLA Silvestre, Director of Community Engagement. MARLON Vallejo, International Student Coordinator. JABETTE LOZUPONE, Director in Student Affairs. And Henry Caballero, Faculty in Communication Studies and Linguistics. So now we will be showing a very short video on Latinos and culture, and we thought this would give everyone a great perspective on how we talk about race, colorism, and identity. If you cannot see or hear the video, please look at the YouTube or Facebook link, and there should be a link for the video there.
I think the Latino identity is pretty confusing to me because oftentimes I find it in a little checkbox on a form and I'm confused on whether I should put Latino or Hispanic, but I'm Mexican.
As Latin Americans, as Hispanics in the US, there's a community that gets built regardless of which specific country you're coming from.
And our history is a history of African people, indigenous people, Europeans, conquistadores, all these different people colliding, many times not with their consent. So that informs all these loaded issues people have.
It's like navigating three identities. If you're from the States, you're American, you're Black, and you're Latina. And furthermore, wherever country that you identify in coming from. And that's a lot to navigate.
But at this point in my life, I actually don't identify as Guatemalan, and it's something that I guess a lot of like young immigrants sort of feel, where there's this saying like, ni de aquí, ni de allá, not from there, not from here.
In trying to blend in with the culture in America, I gave up a lot of what I grew up with. Maybe I saw it as something that was kind of shameful or in the way. I wanted to dress like my friends in America. I wanted to talk like them. I wanted to be like them, listen to the same music. I started listening to country music.
I got all these crazy questions like, did you come here in a canoe? And do you know what snow is? And do you live in a hut in Puerto Rico?
I thought my name was Spick until I was about 13. And that was my first awareness that race was an issue.
People say, oh, you look like a white dude. In some context, not in all contexts, depends where I am, depends who I'm with, depends whole lot of things. Depends what language I'm speaking, but however I look, when I leave my name, I can't get a phone call back about an apartment in New York City. And this isn't like 10 places I call, this is like 30.
And I remember telling a kid one time, I was like, let me tell you, the Ku Klux Klan comes here and they see your last name, you're going too, bro. You know, and the kids are like, what are you talking about? And it was like a big thing.
People generally, you know, unless I speak Spanish, you know, people assume right away, I mean, that I'm African American, that I'm Black. You know, I mean, it's, you know, just one of those things. It may be the deep voice, it may be the color of my skin.
Because I talk white, I'm not Dominican, or I'm not Black, or I'm not Afro-Latina or whoever people perceive me as of being. And that hurt, and that still hurts.
Because one of my daughters is lighter than the other, they had blackness issues. And I remember my oldest daughter telling my youngest daughter that she was black and that her hair, she said something, and I remember crying like immediately, like, oh my God, no, no, no. And I had to sit them down and talk to them about our roots and that everything that they learned from the family was wrong.
I feel like I wanted more of my culture. You know, I grew up, there was a point I stopped speaking Spanish to her, and I still don't speak to her in Spanish. So I feel like something was lost, and I don't know if it was just because she was busy raising 5 kids and didn't really think about culture in that way and how I would come to identify myself.
Growing up, like this, as you know, as a young teenager, I told people I was Puerto Rican, which is completely, which is right. But at a particular point when I became a little more politicized, I was definitely more of a black nationalist than I was a Puerto Rican nationalist. Maybe because the concept of black nationalism and the black liberation movement is so much more accessible. There isn't a language issue. So yeah, I totally was reading Malcolm and Marcus and James Baldwin and Huey Newton before I read any of the Puerto Rican nationalists.
Either you're black or you're white, and if you're like kind of in the middle, you kind of like don't want to be in the middle. You want to, a lot of us want to be white, but we're still brown. We're still color, we still have color, we're still, according to what the institution is telling us, what race is based on your skin color. So you're like, I'm brown. So that's kind of like where it came. Like I'm not black. And I'm not white, and I don't want to be white. So I'm kind of brown, and this is kind of like a thing that's there.
If you are closer to being white, you are supreme. If you are not, you are less than. And to me, that's how I've understood it. And that's why I think it's very important that Latinos who look like me say, you identify as Latino, cool, Colombiano, cool, whatever else, but you benefit from light skin privilege. The fact that you have ojos claros, people want to fetishize that, understand what that means. However much I might want to say, oh my gosh, I'm so special because I have green eyes, you're perpetuating white supremacy by running with that.
I'll talk to a young girl, a young teenager, and she'll say, I'm not white enough to fit into mainstream society. I'm not Black American enough to fit in that, in that faction of society. And I'm like, but you know what? You're the best person to be kind of like a connector between both, because in you is everything. And being Latino in an American kind of New World way is basically being a physical embodiment of how America began as we know it. So you're every woman. So for me, being Latino is being phenomenal.
Phenomenal. So we thought it was important to put together this program because we want to celebrate Latino culture, and also the Latinx student demographic is the fastest growing demographic in Montgomery College. So the more we can know our students, the more we can connect with them and learn with them. But after watching that video, that with you, and also how has your identity been shaped by how you grew up in terms of language and culture?
Well, watching the video, I've seen it before, and watching it again now, all of these feelings are coming up because I mean, it's all relevant. I experienced and continue to experience all of those feelings. I'm still navigating it. What I can tell you is that I've never, I don't think this is true now, but for a long time coming up, I never felt Hispanic enough. I never felt Black enough, meaning Black American, according to the stereotype. And my father being Black, my mom being white from that socially constructed race perspective, my parents used to tell me when I said, but I don't look like either one of you. And they would say, well, it's like when you put the Hershey's chocolate syrup in milk, you get something even better. You get chocolate milk. And so I did grow up having a lot of pride in my mixed heritage, mixed culture, mixed race. However, it was really hard being rejected by everybody and not feeling like I was enough of something. So there was absolutely this need to kind of prove. And I think in particular with the Hispanic culture, it may not be this way now, but absolutely at that time when I was coming up, if you couldn't speak Spanish, well, you're not really Hispanic, looking the way that I look. I definitely walk through the world as a Black woman. And I think there's Black and then there's Black American culture, right? So I think each nationality or country has their own Black culture. And I identify most with Black American culture from the Black perspective. But even in Latin culture, I walk through the world as a Black woman. So very similar to what the young lady shared in the video, it's a lot of weight to carry when I'm representing Blackness, Black Americanness. I'm representing what it means to be Hispanic. And even that term, do I identify as Hispanic? Yeah. Latin, Latina? Sure. But if you ask any Hispanic person that's in that group, hey, what are you? The first thing that's going to come out of my mouth is, oh, I'm Venezuelan. And then I'll have a Venezuelan person that was born in Venezuela be quick to tell me, you're American. So I laugh only because it's just this never ending perpetual cycle of proving what you are. And at the same time, it's hurtful because I grew up with Venezuelan culture. I feel Venezuelan. So I think just as I've become more mature, grow more comfortable in my skin, part of that is just the evolution of growing, becoming a woman. I'm certainly more confident now, but it's continually evolving.
Thank you for that. We want to encourage our audience to put any comments or questions into your box and include that in the program. Okay, so Marlon, how has your identity been shaped by how you grew up in terms of language and culture?
Well, thank you for the question, and hello, everyone. I was born in a town that's mostly Black in Ecuador. The percentage of Black in Ecuador is very small, but the city that I was born is mostly Black people. Now, when I came to America, when I immigrated to the United States, I was almost 17 years old. One thing that I always have been proud of myself is that I never allow anyone to identify who am I. I am a Black person, I am Latino, and I'm Ecuadorian, and I also had friends from everywhere around the world. So I never allow anyone to say, well, you are going to be this group. Yes, when I apply when I submit an application, they ask me, are you Latino, Black? Yeah, I put Latino, I'm Black. But that has been that far. But to allow somebody else to tell me or make identification of how I am, who I am, I welcome, tell me. Sometimes people say, well, where are you from? Most of the time they tell me that I look from Dominican Republic. And I'm fine with that, being categorized as a Dominican Republic. But one thing about race is that I have been very comfortable with who I am as a Black person, as a Latino, and have been able to have friends from everywhere and relate my culture to everyone around me. So it has not been an issue as far as not feeling confident on who am I. And because that's something that I learned from my grandparents. My grandfather was a Black person who was very proud. One day I remember asking him, how do you identify yourself? And he always said, I was born in this place, I'm a Black person, and I'm very proud of who I am. So I guess my grandfather taught me to be who you are and kind of don't let somebody else put you in that group or that position. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my experience.
Thank you. Carla.
Thank you, Jeanette. So my identity, I would say, is also pretty complex, like everyone we've heard this afternoon. I'm from Guatemala, and my father is Mayan. He's Popti, Maya Popti. So I have that in my family and part of my identity. But I grew up more of a mainstream Guatemalan until the age of 8 when I came to the United States. And that is when I started the process of being an immigrant. And but it took a long time for me to figure out or to be comfortable with my identity. I didn't apply to become a citizen because I didn't feel American. If you ask most Latinos that are foreign born, what do they identify with? They usually tell you their country of origin. So for the longest time, I identified as Guatemalan. I graduated high school in 1991, so that was a very different country back then. There were no people like me in television, in the media, so I just didn't think I was American. I thought you had to be kind of like a Norman Rockwell painting to be considered American. So I went to Guatemala to live after grad school for 2 years, doing an internship there. And I saw what it's like to be a Guatemalan. And so when I came back to the US, I can't explain it, but I was just certainly a lot more comfortable with my identity and an American identity. And I think that by now we see a different America. And so it's maybe a little easier, I hope, to feel like you belong. But that was my journey in navigating my multiple identities and coming to terms with my American identity that speaks Spanish, that has black hair, and that has a big family, who's hardworking and very committed to each other.
Thank you, Carla. Henry, how has your identity been shaped by how you grew up in terms of language and culture?
So, I just wanted to echo a little bit about what the other panelists have said about how this is a journey, it's a process. So I was born in the United States, Mexican heritage, but I don't have any family or I don't know family in Mexico. So that whole thing about growing up and living these two cultures, it's hard because we look one way on the outside and you see how things are around you. But, with my family, no one ever put pressure about having to speak Spanish or to identify as speaking English only. That was pretty much left up to me. And so that helped. I didn't feel that pressure, but in school, you don't look the same as other students and you don't have the same food as other students. Your lunch isn't the same as other students. Your heritage, your language isn't the same, so you feel different. But as I mentioned, there's a process, and you come to terms with your identity. You can't avoid who you are. And Marlon said, don't let people identify you. You should identify yourselves. And I've always felt proud of who I am. My language, my cultural heritage, Tejano, of course, and it's just something that you add to the community around you by being authentic, being who you are, and so it's just a process. But everybody has to do. I guess everyone who lives in the United States has to deal with it, and so it's just like all the other people we heard on the video. There are different parts of my life that I can identify with all of that. But, ultimately, in Montgomery College, I feel very comfortable being there. There's a lot of diversity. I feel ashamed of my heritage, of speaking Spanish, of speaking English. So, I have a lot of opportunities by doing both. I can identify with anyone.
That's great to hear. That really resonates with me, that it's a process. I know when I was little and people would ask me, ¿Qué raza eres? it really depended on who was asking me. So if a Caucasian person asked me, I would say white. If a Black person asked me, I would say Black, because at that point, when you're 7 years old, you really don't know your identity, especially if it's not something that you talk about around the kitchen table. So it's a process. I obviously don't say that anymore. I'm mixed. I love my Latino culture. Okay, so question 2, how do you respond when someone asks what race you are, and how have you been affected by colorism and racism in your community? Jabette?
Yeah, it's interesting. As I was listening to everybody's responses, I just am further reminded how complicated it is, because from my perspective, KARLA, MARLON, Henry have that, what I perceive, again, being Hispanic or Latina, I can look at other Hispanics or Latinos and be able to, with good certainty, be able to say, oh, Latino, I can call out my people. And at the same time, there are plenty of Hispanics that look like me, that people see me and they don't think Latina. And I'll give you an example. I was at a fast food in when you're going through the drive-through of the fast food restaurant. And I was trying to place an order and they couldn't hear me. There was a sign that said, hey, if the person can't hear you, drive around to the first window. So I drive to the first window and it's a woman, Hispanic, speaking in Spanish, and she's complaining. And she's going in Spanish, can you believe this woman? She didn't order her food. She's driving up here to the first window, blah, blah, blah. And so I respond to her in Spanish. And I'm like, well, listen, there's a sign that says that if you can't hear me, I need to pull around to the first window. And the first thing she says, she puts her hands up like this and she goes, yo no soy racista. She says, so in English, for those of you that don't speak Spanish, she goes, I'm not a racist. And I was kind of shocked because I wasn't implying that she was racist at all. It was, I think she was just, like happens a lot to me, there was this element of surprise that I understood what she was saying. And I can say with certainty that it did not dawn on her that I was Hispanic, because anytime I speak in Spanish with other Hispanics, one of the first questions I get is, you speak so well, how did you learn Spanish? And well, part of it is, well, because yes, I'm Venezuelan, Cuban, Spanish, whatever, Spanish meaning Spaniard, but also because I studied it. Just like I studied English and I continued. I mean, you're never done learning a language, even if you're a native speaker, and I'm still learning. But it was always important to me to read, write, and speak proper Spanish, proper English, any language that I've learned. And so it's interesting, like KARLA was saying, you look around and you don't see other Hispanics. I remember Rosy Perez back in the day, New Yorican. And I could relate to that because in my mind, she still does stereotypically to me look Hispanic. But going to Madeline's point, the first thing that people say is, eres Dominicano. Because we associate all Black Hispanics as being first Dominican. If you're not Dominican, the next one they say is, eres Cubano, you're Cuban. And then the next one typically is Puerto Rican. And people forget, even Hispanics, that there are Black Hispanics in every single Latin American country. And then hearing from Marlon and KARLA, and then Henry talking about he was born here, which is a very different experience from having a stereotypical Hispanic look. Think Sofia Vergara, Jennifer Lopez. If you have an accent when you speak in English, then people know you're Hispanic. That's something I used to be really jealous of because when I talk, you can't tell. It's like you look at me, you can't tell I'm Hispanic. I speak in English, you can't tell I'm Hispanic. My first name is Jabette. That doesn't sound Hispanic. And so all those things are coming into mix. But my grandfather was born in Cuba. Parents were from Spain, white. And I'm surrounded by racism, even in my own family. And not to call out my grandfather or my family, but it's a reality. And I think that is something that we do navigate. And you heard one of the women in the documentary talk about her two daughters. One was much lighter and one was Black. And it can be very tumultuous. It is something that you are constantly navigating. So I've had lots of experiences like that where, you know, if I go someplace and it's an all white room, the first thing I look for is another Black person, right? Because it's like, safety. And then the next thing I look for is another Hispanic person. And then I have to make it known, hey, I'm one of you. And again, I think it's about looking for safety in those spaces. But it's tough. I don't know if others have had, you know, a similar experience, but I'm still navigating it, you know.
Okay, Marlon?
Well, I echo Yvette's experiences because I always had experiences almost the same as Yvette. I have family that some are lighter skinned than others, and at times I can see the treatment of those who are darker than those who are a little lighter. But again, those personal experiences had never actually impacted me in the sense that I have felt that I'm less than anybody else. But with that experience, I try to sometimes kind of help, or maybe, what can I say, is that help teach somebody, saying, you know, it's okay to be Black. It's okay to be dark. I mean, there is nothing wrong with that. And I always struggle with that message because sometimes especially back home in Ecuador, there's a new trend right now that even though if people think it's correct or other people it's not correct, with the Afro-Latino or Afro-Ecuadorian term, I have a little trouble accepting that term because I feel that I'm comfortable in being Black. Nothing wrong with being Black. And being Black is okay. I mean, you don't have to tell me that I now belong to another group, being Afro-Latino, Afro-Ecuadorian. No, I'm not belong to that group. I belong to, first, I'm part of the human race, and I'm part of, I feel comfortable in being Black. If you want to call me that, and that's fine with me. So experiences go back and forth sometimes, and I feel like I kind of trying to, my Latino heritage or my language, I try to kind of put it out there. I remember having experiences when I go and buy something, let's say in Costco, lady sees me and I know she speaks Spanish. I'm comfortable in talking to her in Spanish. I would say to her, hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? And she looked at me and kind of said, the first thing is, are you Dominican? Well, no, I'm not Dominican, but you know, it's just that I'm open to my language, and I like to communicate in that when I can. Also share my experiences and share my culture and my background. I think I feel very comfortable being just me and being Black and being Hispanic, Latino, whatever you want to call it.
Thank you. So we have a comment from Osana Espinosa. My daughters are white and my little one was born here. She has blue eyes and blonde hair, and she always says that she's from Nicaragua, born in North Carolina. Hablan muy bien español, muy orgullosas.
Excellent.
Keep the comments coming and questions. Okay, so now we will turn it over to Karla.
Yeah, so if I recall, the question is, how do I respond to what my race is and what my experiences are with colorism and racism? So nobody asks me my race except the US Census and maybe employment forms. And as an immigrant, of course, you have no idea what they're talking about because it's an American race system that you are forced to check the box. And so for the longest time, I didn't really know what to put, but I put white, Hispanic for a long time. And as I became more aware of my identity, my culture, the US context, I now check as mixed race, and I did that in the last census. I feel like I'm light-skinned, again, as the video said, in certain contexts. I think some people think I'm very dark-skinned, depending on their lived experience, and some people think I'm very light-skinned. I think that I have benefited from light-skin privilege. You know, I grew up in a town in Florida with a lot of Mayan Guatemalans. And there was a lot of racism, and people would call us beaners. And then they would turn around and look at me and they said, "Oh, we don't mean you, Karla." And you know, I knew that I look different than they are because I'm not 100% Mayan. But I've always felt like I was getting that pass for being lighter skinned in the Mayan context. And I was getting that pass also in the Hispanic context. So I guess as a child, I grew up with a lot of mixed feelings. Like I would see discrimination happening to my people, but it wasn't directed at me. And I didn't know how to respond to that as a child. In terms of racism, I think it's more about microaggressions. Most recently, I was at a wedding and somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, you're Karla? Oh my gosh, you're not as dark as I thought you would be." Who says that? I mean, what? I also often get confused for staff in stores. Like one time, it was 4 times people came to me asking me where the biography section was at the bookstore, and I said to my husband, "Did this happen to you?" And he said, "Oh, honey, no, of course it did not happen to me. He's a white male." I think also a form of institutional racism is the fact that I grew up in a rural town and we had to travel, a rural town of Black and Hispanic students, Guatemalans and Mexicans. And we traveled to the next town to go to high school. I was the only one in honors and AP classes. Only Latina in honors and AP classes in my high school, in my grade. Are you telling me that nobody from my hometown, the rural town, was smart enough to be in honors and AP? I don't think so. I think there was some institutional racism happening there that was discouraging or not encouraging Guatemalan, Mexican, and African American kids from that town to excel in those classes. So those are just some of my experiences with racism and microaggressions throughout the years.
Thank you, Karla.
Before I answer, I just wanted to comment on the That's wonderful. That's great. Unfortunately, not everybody feels that way, but with your kids, it's great. Where I come from, I'm not unique. There are a lot of people in my situation, people who were born in the Southwest.
Excuse me, Texas. Can you pull your mic down? We're having trouble hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. My mic's on the. Is this better?
Try to stay a little bit close.
Okay, sorry. So where I'm from, I'm not unique. In the Southwest of the United States, there are a lot of people with Mexican heritage that were born generation after generation in the United States. But when I moved to Maryland, I realized that I was unique because when I came, in contact with meeting people from Central America, South America, and they would ask me, "Where are you from?" And I would say, "Texas." They would look at me like, "You're not, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, where are you from? Where's your family from?" So, I had to go into that whole thing and explain about the Southwest and the border and how that, it moved across. And then eventually, after getting tired of having to explain that so much, I just tell people, I'm Mexican American. And then they leave me alone. Or I'll speak Spanish or something to kind of prove that, sí soy Latino. But it's interesting because that identity, it's because we have such a diversity. People are interested in where you're from and, you know, what kind of experiences you've had. And sometimes because I've been born here, they might look at me differently or they might not talk to me anymore. I'm not talking about at MC, I'm just talking about in other places. And it's interesting that you mentioned about being mistaken for someone else. Typically, when I'm at the store, people will mistake me for being Middle Eastern or Indian, and they'll walk up to me and start speaking in another language, and I'm like, oh, sorry, you know. So, we all have, I guess, some experiences to share.
Thank you. So from MCTV, Betty Valdez is saying, my first experience with the census many, many years ago, asking about my race. I didn't check any box and kind of kidding, I wrote I am from an exotic race. Okay, Betty. I think we all get a little tired sometimes being asked, where are you from? And you say Rockville, Maryland. And then they ask again, no, where are you really from? And then you have to go into your history. So it really depends on what day you get me, whether I'm going to go into my history or not. So let's go on to the next question. How has your perception of your own identity changed in the last few years, Jabette?
I would say I just feel much more comfortable in my skin. I don't necessarily feel like I have to prove anything to anybody anymore. I absolutely 100% can tell you, though, I am exhausted from the labels. And Marlon spoke a little bit about, now the label is Afro-Latino. And similar to Marlon, it's like, it depends on what kind of mood I'm in, right? Like I try to be inclusive and it's like, sure, Latinx, yes, I'll raise my hand. Hispanic, yes, I'll raise my hand. Latina, I'll raise my hand. Latin American, I'll raise my hand. Afro-Latino, I'll raise my hand for all of them. On the census, similar to what Betty was saying, I check white, Asian, and Black as my race. Ethnicity, I check Hispanic. But it's interesting, and I don't want to get off topic and go on a tangent, but just sort of thinking about what KARLA was saying and what Henry was saying about, when people see you out. People see me out and I love this community so much. So I'm honored that they think I'm one of them. Ethiopians and Eritreans. I guess my features really resonate with them and they will speak to me in Amharic. So they think I'm one of them. And I think that's great because I want to be everything, honestly. But it's interesting having to remind myself that I do look Hispanic, even though I don't look like the stereotypical Hispanic, right? When we talk about the census, it's disheartening to me. KARLA spoke a little bit about this, and I'm curious to hear from the audience as well, why it just seems absurd to me that in this country that you can be any race whatsoever, but when it comes to ethnicity, we want to know if you're Hispanic. What makes Hispanic so special as opposed to if you're white and Italian or white and Polish or Black and Irish or Black and British? Like nobody, I don't understand what the focus is with we need to know if you're white, Black, or Asian, if you're Hispanic. And so I have now resorted, like KARLA, I check every race box. If I can't choose that, I'll choose mixed race. I have to say that for me, it was a gift. I was born in the U.S. for the most part, raised between Montgomery County, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. And learning Spanish, that has helped me to connect better with my Hispanic culture. through language, through food, through music, because we have amazing food and amazing music. And so much of our rhythms are African rhythms, which of course I, relate to as well. In Venezuela, there's a community, Barlovento, and El Baile del Tambor, which is a type of drum. And it is, you look at that dancing and you would think you were in one of the countries in Africa. And so I embrace it all. However, to Marlon's point, there are just some labels. I'm just exhausted. I'm exhausted from the labels. But I identify with all of it. And at the same time, I feel like if you say you're one, actually, so I don't want to get political, but this really resonated with me. I was on Instagram, and Kamala Harris, for those that are not involved in politics, currently running for vice president. And she is Black and she is Indian. And this Instagram post was basically calling her out because while she was doing a walk, an Indian woman was in the crowd and she was like, "I'm so proud to have an Indian woman running for vice president." And Kamala was, smiling. But the person in the post was like, "For all you Black people claiming to have a Black woman running for vice president, she identifies as Indian." And I just kept thinking, like, people don't get it. She's both. She is an Indian woman. She is a Black woman, and it's like, I am a Venezuelan woman. I am an American woman. I am a Black woman. I am also a white woman. My skin's darker, but as Karla was saying, depending on the context, I'm light skinned. To others, I'm dark skinned. So I'm just exhausted. Sorry, I just vented. I'm sure people in the audience can relate. Help me out. Put something in the comments and show me some love, maybe.
Well, we have Karla Ammerman, and she said, "I was once told that I could not possibly be Panamanian because there are no white people there." I think people are obsessed with labels and they need to put you into a box. And what I think is fascinating about Latino culture is we cannot be put into a box. We have so many ethnicities and we don't just speak Spanish. There's other languages that are spoken in Latino America. So I think that's what makes our culture even more beautiful, the diversity. Okay, Marlon, how has your perception of your own identity changed in the last few years?
Well, I try to be more optimistic about it. I believe that with the new generation, people are more aware of that, especially Black, Hispanic, or Latinos. They are everywhere. Before, I relate the question that you just said, one of the audience says something about Panama and not being white people. It's the same thing I go through sometimes when people say, "Oh, if I say I'm Ecuadorian," they're like, "There's no Black in Ecuador." But I mean, it's a small community again. I'm coming from a town that's mostly Black, but the perception is that anybody from Ecuador is more like mixed Indian white perception, or like coming from the Andes area of Ecuador. Again, I always try to be more optimistic about it. I think we live in a world that is so integrated now. People travel more often. People go out of the country and coming into the United States. My international students, for example, I get people from everywhere. I mean, African is my favorite when they come from African country. I mean, there's so much diversity in Africa, let's say. I mean, from Southern to Northern Africa. And you see different races, I mean, coming in. Sometimes I see white South Africans. I see from Angola, from Zimbabwe. I see a white lady who's from Zimbabwe. She was Zimbabwean. My point is that being in this position right now, I think I'm a bit more optimistic about it. I think that we will get to a point that we need to be more comfortable with who we are. As a Black Latino, I'm pretty much proud of being Black Latino. I think I always think about and say, oh my gosh, if God gave me the opportunity to be born again, I would not choose any place different than where I was born in the first place. I love the place that I was born, Ecuador and Esmeralda. I think that's the place that I always want to be, and I always want to eventually go back and live there. And I'm comfortable who I am. I think my perception has been, I want to be more optimistic in the future for the new generations because they are more aware of going outside the United States and traveling everywhere. And I think I always encourage even my students to go and explore the world. Not just go to Europe or England or those places. Go to places like, let's say, Guatemala, Belize. Go to Jamaica. Go to Venezuela. Go to places that you can see actually how the Latino or other culture lives like. That's how it's been my encouragement always when I talk to the students and trying to promote even study abroad in places. Because it's important not to just see one culture. Let's say it's a beautiful culture, European culture. I don't get me wrong, but there's much more than that. I mean, there is Senegal, Africa. I always encourage, even my international students, I encourage them to travel. Actually, they can travel. I had a student coming from Congo, and she went to study someplace else. I mean, I always encourage those things, at least one semester, because it's important to know that this world is not just black and white. There's more culture. There's more people. We have a lot of culture close to by the United States. I mean, we had the Caribbean, we had Nicaragua, we have other places, Panama, we have Guatemala. Beautiful countries, beautiful country. I love to always, when I see those documentaries about those countries, I say, my gosh, those are the countries that I want to go and see. It's always important to encourage our students to promote that. And because that's how we're going to change perceptions. And perceptions is that we all humans, we all coming from one place. We all had the same pains. We all had the same dreams and goals. We all had the same goals. And we all going to the same place. So that has been my, want to be optimistic for my students and trying to encourage them not to just be labeled by some groups. Because there are people who want to come and say, oh, you belong to this group. You want to be this group. No. Be anywhere you want to be and trying to be friends with everybody and trying to not just be this group like, I want an Ecuadorian Latino. No, I love Peru. I love to go to Colombia. I love places and I love to see other people, how they interact. And that has been my perception and trying to promote that with my students and younger generation.
So thank you for that. We have a few comments that have come in. We have Julissa Mahano says, I am exhausted too. I am from the human race. That is all that should matter. Sharon Bland said, excellent session. Jackie Zapala giving me incredible insights I was unaware of. Carissa Hill saying, this is amazing. Thank you for sharing, everyone. And we have Acevedo from Financial Aid at Montgomery College. And she says, I with everyone, I'm constantly having to explain myself and tell my story. It's not enough to say that I'm from Maryland. I have to explain that I was born in Nicaragua when I was 8 years old, yet I self-identify as a first-generation heterosexual white Latino who loves our rich Afro. I wish there was a box that included all of my intersecting identities, and every time someone asks, I can just show them the list. Okay. There's a few other comments, but Karla, can you answer that question? How has your perception of your own identity changed in the last few years? And we'll share.
Yeah, so I shared what it was like when I first got here, right? Navigating the Mayan and all the discrimination that Mayans face in Guatemala. And then the immigrant identity, I was undocumented as a teenager. And then coming to terms with my identity in my 20s. I think that when I went to growing up in Florida in that rural community, again, I was lighter skinned, and so I wasn't a part of the group of Guatemalans. I was in honors and AP, and there were no Guatemalans there or Latinos of any sort. When I went to college, I went to Florida State. There were no Latinos at Florida State. There were some Panamanians who were international students who were very different from me because they were elite Panamanians coming to study in the United States. So again and again, grad school also, I went to the University of Pennsylvania, no Latinos whatsoever. So again and again, I had to be the only one in a white dominant culture. When I came back from Guatemala, those 2 years that I mentioned, I went to work for a Latino organization in North Philadelphia. And that's where I grew up as a professional. It was largely African American and Puerto Rican professionals. And that was the first time where I was in an environment where I felt like I belonged professionally. And I think that part of where I'm going with this is that part of my identity is about representing. I'm always representing my community at Montgomery College, in my volunteer work, in my political work, and then now as a Board of Education member. And I think that is a very big burden to carry. I share that with you today. But it's the identity, it's part of my identity, just that representing, that constant representing. And I think that as I look ahead, I'm still youngish. As I look ahead in terms of what I'm working on now is understanding what it's like to grow up as a Guatemalan immigrant Latina in a white dominant culture and how that has influenced me. Maybe deconstructing that a little bit. Maybe, embracing my indigenous culture better, being a better ally to my African American friends, family members, and colleagues, being a better ally to the LGBTQ. So I think for my identity for the future is about, again, peeling the onion a little bit to understand how I was impacted by being the only Latina in a dominant culture, and continuing the journey.
Thank you, Carla. We have a comment. Actually, it's a question. Carolina Galeano, everyone seems to agree that they are tired of labels, but what about intersectionality? Don't we embrace labels when they help us define the complexity of our experience? So I think we've touched on that a little bit. Henry, would you like to respond to that?
Sure. So we have this the system set up. We didn't set up the system, but it's the way that things work. And so we have to, we check off those boxes and we identify ourselves because that's what we have to do to apply for schools, grad schools, on the census and what everyone else has mentioned. But that's just a small part of a role that we play as citizens. What I see myself as my identity is to be proud of who I am, of my heritage, to be an ambassador of what a Latino is, and as everyone has mentioned, it's really complex to unpack because everyone has their own way of looking at it, and so to be able to respect, if someone says, I'm a Latino, I don't speak Spanish, that's fine. That doesn't make them less of a Latino. Or if someone says, well, I was born in another country, I grew up in the United States, but I identify with the other country, that's who they are. And we should respect that. But I did want to address something that I've heard from people in the county, not necessarily at Montgomery College, but there are people who have this perception of, well, I'm going to go to Spain because I want to learn correct Spanish. And that is so far off base because all of us here have had experience in language, and I don't know how many of us have had exposure to or have studied Castilian, because that's just a very small part. We don't have to go to Spain to study Spanish, by the way. And the Spanish that we use here is correct. doesn't, you know, so this whole perception of that the Spanish that is spoken by immigrants that come from Latin America or people who grow up in the United States correct Spanish is totally off base, and we should, you know, we should educate people whenever they come up to us and say, just like we don't go to England to learn English. But anyway, that's another story.
So we only have about 5 minutes left, and we have a couple of more questions. But I just wanted to make a comment. Henry, you brought up the system, and I think Montgomery College is doing an incredible job dismantling white supremacy and trying to change the narrative in the way we see Black and brown people. So I just wanted to put that out there. But we have Francine Wyron. As a Latinx individual, how do you handle comments and bias in a way that educates rather than becoming defensive? Carla, I think you would be great at responding to this.
I don't think I'm great at responding to this because I'm often shocked, and I suffer from the case of I wish I would have said this, but you know, I think that too often I have been so shocked that I didn't respond, and I'm ashamed of that. And so when, of course, if there's people I know better, you know, I have relationships with, but most of these microaggressions are people I don't know. These are people I saw for 5 seconds, 10 seconds in the streets. But certainly with people that I know better, I share my experience because, you know, you might be anti-immigrant and anti-undocumented, and that's the first thing I say when I'm on camera or an interview. I was undocumented, and so just using my own personal experience so that they can humanize issues, so they can put a name. Oh, this is what an undocumented person looks like right here. And then hopefully that will change hearts and minds that way.
Thank you, Carla. So I think we are done with the questions from the chat box. I want to thank our panelists. Thank you for sharing your personal stories and being here with us. And this was a celebration of our diversity, and you can't just put one label on us. Sometimes we have several, and that's okay. And thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks,
everybody.
Thank you.